Halloween Horror Nights is here. Just because I'm not there doesn't mean I don't want to talk about it, so we are here to talk houses, scare zones, and shows. This is episode 473 of the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. It is with a sad heart that I have to sit here and listen to two of my favourite people talk about one of my favourite events at one of my favourite places. So joining me this week to talk about Halloween Horror Nights 30 is Tracy, who's probably not quite as sad as I am, but still fairly sad.
Yeah, hello.
And Chris.
Hello.
And Michelle.
Hello.
The pair of you have got to experience Halloween Horror Nights how many times at this point?
I've done twice.
And you've done how many? 4.
Yeah.
It's only been going like a week and a half.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to be there last weekend, but the first weekend was so good. I had the bug, and I just said, like, last minute, made a trip and just went up there.
Yeah, well, you had the Rush of Fear pass, so
yes,
why not?
I do have
right?
Rush of Fear, so I'm trying to use it as much this season. So we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep, this year's Halloween Horror Nights has started, and Michelle and Chris have done multiple nights so far. Chris, more than Michelle, as you just heard. But still, now you've heard all about the food and the media event last week, which was awesome. And this week it's all about the main event. So let's start with the scare zones. And first off, on Avenue of the Stars, it is 30 years, 30 fears.
30 years, 30 fears. I mean, it's your entrance zone. So there's not a lot going on in there. You got, some platforms with people on there doing their thing. But it's more of a walkthrough.
Yeah.
That's real descriptive, Chris. Good job.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing. All right. I'm just going to say this preemptively because we're talking about scare zones. Not my favorite thing this year.
Yeah.
Agreed. I agree.
And we can get more into it as we talk about the different ones.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the scare zones, I'm hoping to see them evolve throughout the season, which I did notice that from one week into the next alone. And one of them that was my least favorite. So yeah, 30 years, 30 fears. Like I said, it's your walk-in scare zone. You don't really spend much time in there. There's a couple photo spots that you can take in there, but again, didn't do much for me. I don't know about you, Michelle.
Yeah, it's not a scary zone. There weren't really very many scare actors walking around in there. There were some well-known characters up on the platforms that kind of rotated through. I saw some Pumpkinhead guys, and I did like the photo ops that they had set up. Those were really cool because they had the good lighting on them and everything. Yeah. So it made for good pictures. I like that, and I hope they continue that. I also liked all of the light rigging that they had up with the big sign at the top that said Halloween Horror Nights and neon light. That was cool. That needs to stay too.
Especially with
flames
the fog
coming out.
Yeah, with the fog as well. It looks awesome.
Yeah, that was a great entrance. But like you said, that is in one of those thoroughfares that needs to stay fairly clear. Yeah. So there really isn't ever a lot of walking scare actors in there for that reason. But it was basic.
Let me also, and Michelle, you probably noticed this too, but when I'm talking about stuff here with the scare zones or the houses, right, we need to have the optics of the current situation that we're in and why things are the way they are. So,
yes,
definitely. In this scare zone, things were done a certain way for reasons based off of precautions, right? So there's not really many ground scare actors in this scare zone. They're on platforms. They're high up above to keep them away from the guests. So that does take away from some of this. And you'll see a lot of this theming throughout the other scare zones, right? There's a lot of platforms, a lot of stilt walkers, not as many ground, scare actors.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose, right? That's to keep the guests away from scare actors for, COVID precautions. So
yeah, that's true. But there are still some ground scare actors.
No, there are.
Which is funny. You're like, okay, which one of you are,
which one do you care less about?
With getting the virus? We'll put you on the ground. I don't know how to decide.
Did you find the ones on the ground tended to be, so we're going to get into another one in a minute, where their faces are covered?
Yes and no. No, I saw plenty that didn't have masks on.
Are you sure they didn't have a mask?
I'm positive. I have
Or what
pictures.
prosthetics they were wearing?
I have pictures with them.
Okay.
Interesting.
So before we get into this a little bit more, because I'd forgotten about this actually, overall, how much do you feel COVID has had an effect on this year's event?
For me, it was like on a scale from 1 to 100%, with 100% being a regular event, I would say this was about a 90. It was really the only difference for me was the plexiglass, which didn't really detract from my enjoyment of the houses like I thought it would. So the plexiglass, and then there were some aspects where I wish that scare actors had not had masks on, because I think it detracted from their scare ability.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, crowd level, the same for me, at least. I have heard other people say that it was less crowded, but I don't know how it could be. There was zero social distancing. They were still pulsing us through the house like a conga line. Like it felt like a normal. There was no COVID. Sorry, there was no COVID at that event.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer this question. It's a difficult question to answer just because there's other things at play, right? We didn't have Horror Nights last year. So how bad are we feeling for Horror Nights? Does that determine how good this Horror Nights was? You know what I mean?
But then you've also not got international visitors. That's going to affect it as well.
Yeah.
So from how much COVID affected positively in the sense that there were way less crowds. Now, I know, Michelle, you said it's packed.
Not on my 2 nights. Oh, my God.
Well, let's just touch on this real quick. Way less crowds. Now, was it crowded? Absolutely. It was crowded. Like there were certain areas that were just like shoulder to shoulder in congested areas. Your shows, shoulder to shoulder. You were next to everybody. COVID didn't exist. But there had to be capacity limits somewhere. Night 1 and night 2 were sold out with an average wait time of 60 minutes or less, typically ranging around 45 minutes.
Yeah.
When midnight hit around, 15 to 20 minute wait in houses. I'm sorry, that's not a full event.
I agree.
We all know what this is like. I've been going for years, and you're looking at average 90 minutes to 120 minutes in the beginning of an event, especially a sold out night. So it did feel very crowded. And
I don't know. I saw wait times when I was checking apps, because that second night I did not have Express. So I was checking wait times, and I regularly saw them 85 minutes, 90 minutes on that second night.
I was checking and I didn't see that. And I've been looking in the annual pass holder group, and I pointed something out to Tracy. Someone posted in one of the annual pass holder groups this weekend. Tell me again why I need Express. We've been here 2 hours and we're already 6 houses down.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because that second night without Express, I only did... So I did a Stay and Scream, and I did 2 houses on Stay and Scream. And then I did 2 other houses the whole night. That's all I did.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about lines and weights and all the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah. So
30 years, 34 years. Let's just get back to that.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. It was okay.
Yeah, I always find that entrance scare zones a bit of a... Because it's, to be fair, we only ever hit it coming out of the park, because we're either RIP or... Stay and Scream, so we never see it other than coming out of the park. So it is what it's there to kind of introduce people coming into the park to the event and ease them in. And like, especially this year, looking at it, it's very much welcome to the 30th event. This is everything that's gone on before. This is what you're going to see in the rest of the park.
But I mean, I think it did its job, right? It's there just to kind of start giving you that sense and feeling of Horror Nights. There's not supposed to be a ton of actors there scaring you, because there's just too much crowd.
Exactly.
Crowd control they're trying to do with that. So it did its job. I'm not saying it was bad. It just had some cool picture spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving clockwise around the park, we'll hit New York next, and that is Seek and Destroy. I'm not hearing good things about the scare zone.
No.
Maddie and Kenneth loved it.
Really?
Like raving, loved it.
Maddie was raving when I saw her. Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, go ahead.
It wasn't I usually like that area because it's the biggest. There's usually lots of scare actors that really get me good because it's just such a huge place. It's easier for the scare actors to blend in. So like with the Psychoscarapy and the Vamp 85 and all those were, I loved those. But this one was like like it wasn't. There weren't any scares. They got me a couple of times once they finally gave them chainsaws. But like the walking scare actors were just in white, like space alien looking suits.
Yeah, and it stands out as well. You can't hide in a scare zone when your outfit's bright white.
It also looked very weird during the daytime as well. It just didn't seem to fit. And giving them chainsaws was just...
Well, the controller aspect of it was cool. Like having that electronic board up there that was controlling it. That was kind of a cool aspect. I liked the spotlights at night once it got dark enough for the spotlights. That was cool. I just felt like it needed more. Like it needed a live sacrifice show or something where they pulled somebody out of the audience. Like it needed something a little bit more. It kind of fell short for me.
This is one of those scare zones that they had to start changing up already. It's on the bottom of my list. It was terrible. And this is not a slide to the people working it. It's what they're given, right? So I went to this scare zone 3 times. And every time I spent more and more time trying to figure out how to like this scare zone. And I couldn't. It was just boring. And the first time we went through was even worse because it was dead silent. There was no chainsaws. There was a one at the end. And by the end, the last time we went through it, they were adding more chainsaws in there. But the scares are basically guys with a flashlight.
Yeah.
And Maddie had the term for it, the step in something. It's a scare actor term, right? For like a quick scare and keep on walking, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen them do it. Yeah, they'll kind of and they walk along as if they're walking past you, and then do like a step and poof, and then
exactly, yeah. But it was dead quiet, especially if you come in from the other side where it's not the controller side. If you're coming in from San Francisco, it is just dead quiet, and it was a very awkward scare zone to go through because I'm just sitting here looking. I took video multiple times, and again, I'm trying to figure out like what's going on here.
Yeah, the story was not clear.
No. Well, absolutely. And like I said, they started tweaking it already. So the last time, and that's the footage that I sent you, Lee, that we were there. We stood on the other side where the controller is, and we sat there for like 10 minutes to kind of just see what the feel and vibe is over there. And obviously they added more chainsaws. They added this guy, which I don't know if he was there the first night, but they have one guy that doesn't have a mask on that looks like he just broke out of prison and is running up to people, warning them, do not give yourself to the controller, and keeps on going. And he looks like almost like a homeless person, right? In a white outfit, dirtied up and everything. So I only saw him the last night I was there, which I thought was, okay, that's good, right? And then the other thing that was going on is the controller was doing like the speech thing to the people saying, come over here and give yourself to the controller. And there was that interaction was neat. I'll give it that word, because there were some people that would like get into it where like I saw like a family of like 6 literally like bow and get on their knees and like give themselves to the controller. That's cool. While the other guy's screaming like, don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was the only cool thing about that scare zone. Aside from that, like I said, I think this is one of those scare zones that's going to have to evolve throughout the season. It has potential to be a better scare zone, an amazing scare zone. I don't know. They're going to definitely have to add some more props in the streets to give them a little bit more coverage, because it's just all open streets and like 2 platforms.
And that's a shame, because I always find, at least in my experience, New York tends to be the better scare zone.
Yeah.
Overall. I mean, it looks... Tracy and I were watching a vlog the other night. I can't remember what it was, and someone, like, it was from quite far away, looking up one of the... I think it might have been Tim Tracker, and the smoke, like the fog, and then that searchlight shining through it. So it looks cool. Yeah, it's obviously lacking something a little.
Yeah. But like I said, it's one of those that they have the potential to change it and make it a little bit better.
It's still early doors.
It is early doors, yeah.
The next one surprised me though.
Will this be in San Francisco, Crypt TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
That one surprised me. I wasn't because I didn't know much about Cult TV. I tried to watch some of the clips on YouTube before, and I just didn't really get into it that much. But that scare zone I actually kind of enjoyed. So, they were up on like little stages, some of them doing a little show type thing that goes along with the corresponding show on Cult TV. But the character, like the costumes were very elaborate and very cool.
They were.
And it was that's always a very tight scare zone, right? So it's harder to get away from those stages and from those scare actors, which was fun for Krissa. And those scare actors were more interactive than any of the other scare zones in my experience on those two nights.
I've heard different from people about Crypt TV.
They would call Krissa over to them. Those scare actors were very interactive, I found, and I liked it a lot.
It seems from what you've said so far and what we've seen that a lot of the scare actors are up on stages, and it's like I'm with Chris. I'm not really a scare zone fan. I'm not. That's wrong.
I don't know. Some of them are being.
They're not what I go for.
No,
I enjoy them for what they are, but I'm not there for the scare zones.
Well, I do enjoy scare zones. I just didn't enjoy these.
Oh, okay.
These I did not enjoy them completely. The Seek and Destroy really messed me up where I'm like, I don't like this at all, but it got a little bit better. Crypt TV, I actually kind of like this one.
Okay.
And I would like it for an odd reason. I like it because I'm like the target demographic that it's trying to hit. I've never seen Crypt TV. I went to that scare zone, saw clips of it on there, saw really cool costumes, saw just a clip of a scene from whatever show or series or episode that they did. And I left that scare zone. I look over to Alexa, I go, I want to watch Crypt TV.
Yeah.
I want to check this out.
I've thought that too. It does look like the costumes and stuff of the characters they look intriguing. Like I could imagine with that character, like it's the guy with like the stitched up face who's got the head in his hand. It looks interesting. That intrigues me, and I actually want to watch that.
100%. And if you go, like I went on the YouTube channel because it's all on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's some of them is just one episode. Some of them is a 30-minute thing. So I'm like, this is easy to consume.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through and actually watch. I'm going to look for all the specific ones in this scare zone, check out their episodes, go back and see. There's nothing crazy going on, right? This is literally the scare zone is just booth after booth after booth of one little snippet of that episode. But if you're somebody who's into elaborate costumes, this is a scare zone for you. If you're somebody which has become a thing more in Horror Nights than anything else, which likes taking pictures and selfies, this is the scare zone for you because these guys are there for pictures. They're not there to scare you. They're all slow moving. If they see you pull out a camera, they'll do a show for you. If you go up for a selfie, they'll take it with you. So this is that scare zone for sure.
It's
if you want some cool pictures.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Icon Alley back in 25.
So this is the Instagram zone then?
Yeah, I think that's become the Instagram zone. I think if you look at Hellbilly Deluxe, that was kind of that way. You know, it even had the photo ops in there for it as well. Because
Which is good. Use social media.
It is a weird area now, San Francisco, with Fast and Furious being there to do a scare zone in. So I think it kind of makes sense for that to be it.
Yeah.
So moving round, the penultimate scare zone we find is in Central Park. And I always find this a weird one because it's such a beautiful area, but they always tend to look the same. And this year is the Terror Queen coming back to Gorewood Forest. And I know, Chris, you and I have spoke briefly about this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one is not a bad one. It's not high on my list. Not that there's that many scare zones to rank. You get to walk in and see the Terror Queen in the beginning. So the set piece, the intro is nice because she's doing a little kind of show for you, right? She's getting the blood out of a human that is hanging there.
Oh, nice.
So that's cool. That's nice. And you get to see her, and she'll do some, high up photos. She's very high up on the platform. But you get to see that. Aside from that, the scare zone itself is decorated and themed out nicely. I like they have like these ropes going through the trees with lighting, awesome. So it makes it look like they're alive. Yeah. So that was cool. Scare actors in here. Again, and this is going with the optics of the current climate. Is they're mainly in these little kind of booths.
Yeah, little pop out things, aren't they?
And they just pop out a little bit and they go right back inside. Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, I get it. For what it is, I have to accept it. It themed out nicely, but not one of my top scare zones that have been in this area, let's say.
It fell short for me. I thought the lighting package was beautiful. Like you said, the string lights and the trees, gorgeous.
Yeah.
For the backstory, I felt like they could have done more. Also, if you didn't hit the scare zone from the Cafe La Bamba side, you had no idea what was going on, because that's where the Terror Queen was. So I hit it from the animal actors side first and saw the terror. I wouldn't have even seen the Terror Queen, honestly, if Maddie hadn't pointed her out over there, because she's not like front and center. She's off on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I felt like the scare actors who were in the huts, I don't see any reason why they could not have come out of their holes more, because they had full like facial coverings on.
Yeah.
Like they were full costumes. Like, so
Strange,
there's no
isn't it?
reason why they couldn't have been more interactive, but they
were
just
trying to act
weren't.
like you're talking like the crab ones, right?
Yeah, like they could have come out more, but most of the time they would just kind of like stick an arm out or something.
It was a weird, those were weird scare actors, because if you went there early enough, and I don't know if this was just one night that we went, they didn't have the hand things, so it's just them in there kind of like coming out with their normal hands. And then later on the night, they had their little like
That's odd.
tarantula arm things. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Terror Queen looked like, when we talked about the Terror Queen coming back months ago, when we were talking about Halloween Horror Nights and that, and we were like, we Googled her and we're like, ooh, boobs. She looks all right. And then I saw what the Terror Queen looks like. I was kind of like, she looks weird.
Can't put my face.
She looked weird.
It is the face.
It just looked odd. Like the actual images we've seen of the Terror Queen, she looks like a woman that's like a tree, and this just looked
like deformed. Yeah,
she just looked
and it's
strange.
a full body suit.
Yeah, it was
it's
weird.
not like, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
It was very strange.
Yeah, it was a strange scare zone. I felt like they could have done more. This year's scare zones felt very thrown together last minute,
Which is weird. It's such a shame. I hate to be as down on them as we are. Hopefully they'll.
Well, and maybe it's just because it was the beginning of the season.
Maybe.
But
And the
to me, it
circumstances.
felt like maybe they were holding off on that part of the budget to see if the event was going to go. And once they were like, all right,
Quite
it's a go,
possibly.
let's do it.
Yeah,
They
maybe.
just kind of threw it together real fast, because they just felt like every single one of them just felt like it was just like it could have been. It could have been better, but it wasn't.
I think also like it just goes back to like how they have to set it up, right?
Yeah.
And also like so you saw people without face masks on. I didn't really see many. Most of them even had like prosthetics that looked like faces, but it wasn't. So you're not getting that like facial expression. You're not really getting any interaction where some other scare zones you would. Like the only interaction I got from any scare actor was back in Seek and Destroy, which again, I go, that's good interaction. They need to do that more. Where I'm taking the video of the controller, and then one of the, let's call them seekers, is standing right behind me. So Alexa's watching them. They're trying to scare me, but I'm just dead inside. So they're right next to me, and they see me videoing, and he just kind of whispers in my ear. Again, he has a mask on, like a full face shield. He's like, such primitive technology, and then walks away. I'm like, I like that.
Yeah.
Do more of that.
Yeah.
We need more interactions. I think that's one of the things we're missing in the scare zones is interactions, which again, they're not directed to do that. So I'm not trying to be down on that.
And that's what I didn't understand is like you guys had, especially in Gorewood Forest, they didn't just have like on little cloth face masks. Like you couldn't see their face. It was like a full on plastic whatever costume mask that was like huge. Like there's no reason why they could not have been out and about.
It just sounds like they're being incredibly overcautious with COVID, and you can't blame them, I suppose.
really.
I hate the fact that we're still talking about this frigging thing having an impact on the thing that we love, but
but then in the next one that we're about to discuss, they were much more interactive. So like they were walking around. So I don't know. The COVID excuse was very hit and miss, I think.
Well,
should we go to the next one then?
yes,
that's
just
what I was
move on,
hoping to lead into there.
Lights, camera, action in Hollywood.
Right. So coming out of Gorewood Forest, heading down the street, this lights, camera, action was my favorite scare zone of all of them. If I had to rank them, this would be my favorite. And that was because there was a lot of interaction. It was mostly street scare actors. They did have the little stages set up for all the different past scare zones, which was kind of cool, but also like, what is that for? They didn't really do much except the ice cream man.
He's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, he was cool. He would call people over to him. Like he called Krista over to him, like, you want an ice cream, little girl? And she got really close and he scared her. So that was cool. But like there were a lot more street scare actors in this zone, at least at the times that I went through there were. And that is where I also ran into people that did not have any kind of facial coverings on whatsoever. And they were in my face a lot more. There were a lot of like places for them to hide because of the way they had some of the stages set up in the middle of the street. So like there was, no matter which way you went around the stage, there was somewhere where a scare actor could be hiding. So you just couldn't get away from it. That was a fun scare zone for me.
Yeah. Yeah. They had like props in the middle, like she was saying, which they need to add to Seek and Destroy. I hate that I keep on going back to that one because that just pisses me off. But yeah, so a lot more scare actors on the streets. Most of them for me, I know I saw a chainsaw guy that didn't have anything on, but most of them were masked up. There was a lot more interaction there. Like you said, the ice cream guy was definitely talking to you and he kind of like messed around a little bit with Alexa, which was funny. But you had the street, performers walking around. So you felt a lot more involved than some of the other ones where you just felt like you're walking through a museum.
Yes.
So, and again, the ones that you do have there are also, they're able to talk. So when I say interactive, I also mean talking to you, which is very hard in some of the other scare zones. Cause like the ones that have full face masks, they can't talk to you, but they also have masks for that same reason. So they don't talk to you. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword on that one. I love this scare zone. It's my favorite scare zone, mainly because I got to see Eddie in a chainsaw. Like I just been wanting to see Eddie for a long time.
Yeah.
And we got to see Eddie there, and the Eddies, because there was two different ones I saw from the nights I was there, are both just working the camera. All right. These guys are jacked. These guys are wielding this chainsaw like they're ready to kill you. Like it just looks like Eddie that you see in like promos and things like that. The way you would think Eddie would be.
Awesome.
And there's a lot of good picture spots in this, which I'm sure you guys have seen. A lot of photos being taken in this zone.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more interactive than any of the other zones, and there is a lot of callbacks to different previous scare zones that have been there. So it's definitely my favorite one. I tried to go through there as many times as possible. Just because, like I said, you can stand around and have that joy of watching like a group of people that are terrified, screaming their heads off, running through the zone because they're actually chasing you. So it was a very cool zone.
Okay, interesting. So it seems overall the scare zones are a bit lacking this year, but we're going to put it down to COVID a little bit.
And I will say this, just kind of like a thing, because I know we're not in the houses yet. As much as I did not like the scare zones this year, the houses are so stacked that it doesn't matter.
Okay. We will get there. Because before we get onto the houses, we're going to talk about the two shows. Now, Tracy and I have watched these two full shows on YouTube tonight, and we have very different opinions over both of them.
Do we?
I think so. No, I don't mean different between you and I mean a different opinion on one compared to the other. I was actually going to switch these round because I felt like I wanted to talk about this one second, but the first one we watched was Marathon of Mayhem, but we're going to talk about the one in the Fear Factor Theatre, which was Halloween Nightmare Fuel, which I wasn't expecting that much from it, with how high the bar was set from Academy of Villains.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
This show. Wow. This show is amazing. We saw it multiple times. I will go back and watch it again. It's nothing you would expect. I heard one of the RIP tour guides describe the show as Cirque du Soleil meets S&M, and I think that perfectly describes it. Yeah. Right. You got half naked dudes, half naked chicks. They're all leathered up.
Yep.
At one part, one of them walks two guys out onto the stage. You have more than enough fire.
Oh yeah.
More than enough fire. It's a lot, and you will kind of burn yourself in the front row if you get anywhere near it. The performers themselves, I mean, it's amazing what they do with fire and how they manipulate fire.
Yeah. For definite.
There's also a bit of magic in this show.
Yeah.
Illusion,
So, Chris,
right?
you and I spoke briefly about this. Tracy and I sat watching it, and the bit on the bed right at the beginning, we both went, where the hell did he go? Right, rewind
Where'd
it.
she come from?
Yeah.
Where'd he go?
Rewind it, watch it again. Right, I can kind of see where she is, but where the hell's he gone?
We figured it out after multiple viewings.
Don't spoil it.
Oh, I'm not. Trust me.
Tell
I
me
won't.
later.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see because, like, as a normal adult, you're saying, well, magic isn't real, and that guy didn't disappear from there.
Yes.
So where is he?
It's awesome.
I think
but
I know.
yeah, the way they pull it off, and the fact that they pull it off so quickly, and that, remember, the audience is not just right in front. You have side audiences.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when we sat on the side, one of the times I go, here's how we find out how it is. That's not what we found out, by the way. They just hide the illusion so well.
I sat on the side and I was like, good God, how did they do that?
Yeah.
Dang
Yep.
it. I was trying so hard to figure it out.
I'm
a
looking for
split
trap doors.
second.
I'm
It
looking
was
for
so good.
some kind of panel, something.
But
Because
you
like
can see underneath the bed, you can see
You can see underneath the stage
Yeah,
because it's
it's
all the
you
so
could, yeah,
good.
I was looking under the stage.
Yep.
You know, and you always got to look. So like I used to like watch a lot of magic shows and like revealing magic and all that stuff. I find it very fascinating.
Oh, the
So you
Masked
know
Magician,
when
yeah.
they're doing the trick, right? It's when everybody's dancing and trying to get your
Yes.
attention elsewhere. So that's when you pay the most attention.
Yep.
But still very difficult to find.
Yeah, we didn't see it. We watched it 2 or 3 times, that first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like having watched it, like I said to Tracy, you can tell when something gets me. And we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get onto Marathon of Mayhem. I sat watching that show on YouTube, and I had that prickle, and like kind of if I get overexcited about something, it's going to seem so weird and sad. I tear up.
You have an emotional response.
Yeah. And I did to that, and I was surprised because it's like, look, we know what happened with Academy of Villains, but what the bar that they set up for that show was a hard one to fill. And I think they did it in spades. It was similar enough that it made sense for it to be in there, but different enough that it wasn't just Academy of Villains 2.0.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. And like so me personally, right? We saw it the first night on the RIP tour, and I saw it. I'm like, this was cool. There were some things there that I'm like, this could get a little bit better, right? We saw it again the next night, got a little bit better. And by better, I mean like there's a lot of dancing and stuff that goes on in there, and they just fine tune it more and sharpen it more. And there's like little details that they would change in and out. But by the last time we saw it, which was, Sunday or Saturday this past weekend, which is like the 4th day of Horror Nights altogether, I came out of the show. I go, man, this is just even better than the first time I saw it. And it may just be me like just critiquing like certain aspects of it, but it was really good. It's so enjoyable. And like you said, this isn't just Academy of Villains show, but with fire instead, right? No, it's its own separate thing. Like all shows are going to have aerialists and kind of dancers and things and all that, but this is its own specific thing.
Yeah.
And also I want to mention the soundtrack of this show.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I need to find it.
Yes.
Like we need to have that released. I'll buy it on CD. I'll buy it on vinyl, whatever it is. It's so fitting. You have, metal, you have remixes of like old songs. You have Missy Elliott remixed into a metal song with trumpets. It's phenomenal. Like it's such a good soundtrack, which also fits in with the rest of the theming of the entire event, right? Like the rest of the show outside, you're hearing these heavy metal kind of dubstep versions of songs, which is great, which also happens in the other show that's happening there that we're about to get to. But yeah, the soundtrack that they put together, like they've always done a great job. Like even all the Academy of Villains shows, loved all the soundtracks. We got to get those online because they would post them. I'm hoping they do the same for this because I would definitely listen to this.
Yeah.
Yep. It was an awesome show. The like you said before, the fire stuff was phenomenal. The magic, great touch. I too thought it was not going to be able to reach my expectations that were set in 2019. And it was a very close to 2019 for me. Still 2019 Academy of Villains was better. But it was still a great show. Carissa was with me. I keep mentioning this because it was her first HHN. Yay!
For those that don't know, she's only 10.
She's 10 and she did great. She sat next to me the whole time and she kept going, Mama, this is so inappropriate.
Meanwhile, Michelle's
no,
drooling.
it really isn't.
I know.
Yes,
I
I
know.
know.
She was like, Mama, should I be watching this? I felt like a terrible mom at that moment. I was like, it's fine. You're fine. No, but it was a great show.
Yeah,
they
it was.
did an awesome job.
Yeah.
I would watch this one again for sure.
Agreed.
The other one, I don't know, but this one, yes.
That was us just watching it on the TV, and it's like, you know how much a show loses just watching it not there. Like, you know how different it is watching a show, being there. Like Tracy said, the atmosphere, the night you've had before it affects your whole, we're going to talk about it in a minute, but Marathon of Mayhem back in 2019, it loses so much just watching it back on the TV. But this, just watching it on the TV was like, yeah, I can imagine it just an awesome show to watch at Horror Nights, and it fits so well.
It really was. Just a little tip, if you can at all get there early enough so that you get to be in one of the middle sections. Not that you don't necessarily have to be in the middle section, because most of that is reserved for RIPs and Express.
Chris.
But one of those middle sections, which I wasn't this time, Kay. Anyway, if you can be in one of those middle sections, the show is definitely better, just because of all the fire and the illusions and stuff that they do. I think would be viewed better from the middle. I was on the side.
Yeah.
And it was still good, don't get me wrong, but I think it would have been better from the middle.
And two other things, I think, just so people going out there for the first time doing it. One, get there early. This show fills out every single time. There was not one time that, there was some open seats. No, they actually cut off people at every single show that we saw.
Okay.
And the other thing, if you are concerned about being in close proximity to people, then this is not the show for you.
Yeah.
You are going to sit shoulder to shoulder. It's a completely packed stadium.
Oh, yeah.
So I say that, just people were asking. And so, it is a very packed show. But if you do want to go to it, definitely get there at least a half hour before, if not maybe a little bit prior to that, just because it does fill up. But it's definitely worth it. 100% worth it.
Yeah. You're definitely packed like sardines. That's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if COVID is your fear, that's not probably the show for you to see.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, head over to the Studios Lagoon and let's talk about Marathon of Mayhem, Carnage Factory.
And we know how hard the bar was set for this.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's just impossible. I just don't know that they will ever
I agree.
reach what they did that original show.
Now, I have a question, Michelle, before we get in. Do you think, it's difficult because 2019 was such a special year for everyone on this podcast right now.
Right.
It was completely different experience at Halloween Horror Nights than anything probably any of us have experienced before. To do not only that RIP tour as a big group of close friends, but also to have done it as a bigger group for the Weekender. You have such more an emotional attachment to that show, and it's difficult to take that out of it and just judge the show for what it was.
That's probably part of it, and I'll never know if that is what's making my opinion right now, because that is what it is. But for me, soundtrack wise and content wise, 2019 just had better stuff to work with.
Agreed.
This year for me, I mean, it was still good. Don't get me wrong. It was still good. It was still worth seeing for sure. The water cannons and things like that that's always fun to watch. The soundtrack just didn't do it for me. Like there was no emotional attachment to the soundtrack at all, where you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I have to listen to this. Yeah. And I don't know, it just felt very incohesive to me as a complete show. And then also the biggest thing for me is there was no big bang at the end. In 2019, they did that whole rewind section and then they played it again really fast and it got really chaotic. and like
Yeah.
it really the end kind of really built up. This didn't do that. It was just like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Wait, what? It ended. Okay. Like there was no denouement. It was just like very flat. Okay, it's over. So
I think
don't know.
it's suffering from that Forbidden Journey Gringotts syndrome. That one came after the other. The bar was raised so high that everything after it's going to pale in comparison. Tracy and I both said when we were watching it that it didn't have, like, you had that notable hook of Swan Lake, of Stranger Things, of Ghostbusters, of Killer Clowns. This didn't have that because even the IPs that they used didn't have identifiable music, like you said, to give you that emotional attachment. I mean, for Tracy and I, again, we talked about they used the buildings. I thought the buildings with the linked in with the projections on the water, they used better in this. There was times when it worked so well in conjunction between the two. But it just again,
I did like that this one told a story, though.
Yes, you did say that.
It had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I liked that.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to compare the two, right, you can say 2019 was your IP and this was your original.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Is it as good as 2019? I don't think so. I mean, I watched it multiple times.
Yeah.
But you also had, so I personally think the use of buildings was better in 2019 than this year.
Really?
Especially when they brought out like the Stay Puft and they had the lights.
Yes.
And like there was some
And
really
the van flipping on Stranger Things, that was so
there
cool.
was some really cool stuff that they did in 2019. However, this show is still amazing.
Yeah, of course.
But that's coming from somebody who, like, so you have an attachment to Michelle, for example, to like Ghostbusters, Netflix, that kind of stuff, right? Where I did too. But I love the character of Jack.
Yeah.
I love these icons. So the fact that they got front and center in this, I think it's more of a, you know, a tribute to that and for the fans. But is it as good as 2019? Yeah, I don't think so. But like you said, the bar is set so high.
Yeah.
I like the soundtrack a lot just because I like many different types of music, but I also like metal and remixes of metal songs and all that kind of stuff. So it did really well. But yeah, the soundtrack on 2019 was just ridiculous.
Yeah, this one didn't have any, not even one track other than I can't even remember what it's called. Tracy, you and I were the
I still can't think what it's called.
Other than that, it didn't have a hook in it, so it's never going to hit you emotionally because there's nothing there that you have any familiarity with. Whereas, like we said, with 2019, most of it was familiar and it hit. Like I told you, after coming back from 2019, I could not listen to the Stranger Things music without tearing
You
up.
couldn't.
Yeah.
But again, that's not to say it's bad.
No,
I think
it's just different.
It's that weird perspective of it's coming off something that was so good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure if 2019 never existed and this came out, we'd all be ranting and raving.
Absolutely.
You know, this is amazing. This is so
Yes.
good. But yeah, now you have something to compare it to.
Yeah,
so
that's the problem.
Yeah. It's difficult, but I still think they did a stellar job with the show.
Oh, yeah.
And having Jack front and center, being like the ringleader and kind of putting all this together, it was just so nice to see that because we really haven't had icons for a while.
No.
So I love icons. I've always said it. I wish there were icons every year. I wish they'd bring back some, make new ones, continue developing the story. I'm all for that. So the fact that we got to see that here in this show was awesome.
Cool.
Yep.
Right. Let's take a quick ad break because we've still got 10 houses to get to yet. So,
have you taken a stroll down Diagon Alley and visited Gringotts Bank? Taken a ride through New York with Jimmy Fallon? Visited the Truffalo trees in Seuss Landing or hung out with a real-life Transformer? No? Then what are you waiting for? At Universal Orlando Resort, there truly is an option for everyone. Or if you're leaning a little more towards pixie dust rather than wands and potions, Disney destinations around the globe await your arrival. No matter the adventure, our sponsors have you covered. Be sure to let the experts at Mouse and Muggle Travel Company take care of all your travel needs. earning the distinction of being an earmarked agency specializing in Disney destinations, as well as becoming one of the first to be named a U Preferred agency with Universal Parks and Resorts Vacations. Mouse and Muggle Travel Company will ensure you receive top-rated customer service. Just visit mouseandmuggle.com to fill out a no-obligation quote request or send your request to info@mouseandmuggle.com. Their team can take care of you no matter where in the world you want to go. With a flick of their wand and a little bit of pixie dust, the process will be so seamless, some might even say it's simply magical.
Welcome back, everyone, and we are now going to move on to the houses. So first up, moving clockwise from the front of the park, we have one that returned from 2020's HHN Light, and that will be the Bride of Frankenstein Lives.
Yeah, so this was my first time seeing this one.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And I really enjoyed it. I just a disclaimer, I'll say this up front at the beginning. I did great this year. I kept my eyes open the entire time through all the houses. I didn't have to hug on to anybody.
She had sunglasses on though, so she couldn't see.
So you saw the stuff now.
I did.
Cool.
So wait, you didn't do the 2 houses last year?
She didn't go, did she? No.
Mm-mm. I was
okay. That's interesting. Okay.
bitter. I was too bitter.
I think it's good though, because
so-
you got the entire event, whereas Chris going this year he got like 3/4 of an event, whereas you got the full
I'm
event.
very interested to hear like people's opinions that never did the ones last year to see how it stacks up first time.
I liked this house a lot. I liked the whole story of the Bride of Frankenstein, which I've never seen the movie, so I didn't really know the story. But all of the brides of Dracula that were in the cell, the prison cells and things, that was super cool. Their faces just looked gory and awesome. I was worried. This was actually the first house I went into.
Okay.
FYI. I really thought that the plexiglass was going to bother me more than it did, but it didn't. It was fine.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And then the big Frankenstein at the end that came to life, that was super cool. So I thought it was well done. It was beautiful.
Yeah, this was one, having watched the walkthrough, like beforehand, I was like, this would probably be bottom of my list, being interested in. And then the more I've watched the walkthroughs and stuff, it actually looks pretty cool. There's houses that will be lower down on my hype list than this now.
This one surprised me. I really liked it.
This one was a cool house. I mean, I did it last year, and I honestly couldn't tell too many changes from last year to this year. So, it's not on top of my list, but it's definitely a very enjoyable house. I love the intro to the house where she's lifting up. I don't want to get into stuff like details, but there's some really nice intro into this house. The storyline's really cool. How, she's gathering the brides of Dracula to bring Frankenstein back to life and do all that stuff. So it's a good house. That's basically it. Same thing from last year.
Okay. We can't really say anything, so.
Yeah.
No, so. Yeah. Next up, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
This was high on my list. This was high on my hype list, and having watched walkthroughs and seen video, literally, Chris, it was the Instagram post that Alexa put up with the strobe of Leatherface. I was like, oh man, I realized how much I really want to see this house now.
I don't know, Chris. Do you have a different? You go first, because my opinion isn't great.
Again, this is not a ranking show, but this is towards the bottom of my list.
Really?
Yeah. And let me just say this, and Michelle, I think you will agree with this. All the houses this year were amazing. They were really, really well done. So saying something is at the bottom of a list does not say much about the house. Correct.
Right.
This house does suffer from something that other houses have suffered from even a scare zone this year, Seek and Destroy. Why am I still talking about that? It's, for me, the issue was, and this sounds weird, but it's just too much Leatherface. It's Leatherface, turn the corner, Leatherface, turn the corner.
Stale.
It was just the same repetitive thing over and over. Now, there's some decent scares in there, but from just seeing a house and you're seeing the same thing over and over and over, like when you walk through Seek and Destroy, it's the same white figure, white figure, white figure, white figure. It gets boring after a while.
That was the same complaint of Halloween, wasn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Is this is your run-of-the-mill slasher film house? To me, they kind of all run together. And I even said this in my initial review when I walked out of the house. If you listen to it on Rush of Fear when that comes out,
it's out.
Oh, okay, it's out. Yay!
Came out a week ago.
Yeah, but that was my initial reaction. Was it's like all of the other slasher film houses that we've gone through, where it's just repeat
because
character, like the same character over and over again. Chainsaw, rip,
you
chainsaw.
Can't do a lot else with it because you've only got one character to work off, really.
Yeah.
I guess, but they're.
Well, you know what my favorite scare in this was? The pigs.
Yeah.
They have 2 pigs in there that get you around a corner. I loved it.
It was like a puppet one, wasn't it?
Now,
Came out. Yeah, I saw that on a video.
The sets were well done. Like these sets in this one were more elaborate than some of the other slasher film houses that I've been through. That could be because I actually kept my eyes open and I saw them this time. So I don't know.
Well, this was a lot more lit up too than the other ones.
Yeah, it was well lit up. Like I could see the sets and they were really elaborate and well done. But I don't know. I guess I wanted it to be more gory.
Yeah, but right. So I'm going to make a comment here. Tracy and I watched the film last weekend. That film isn't gory.
No.
I guess, yeah.
Right? Everyone has this opinion of Texas Chainsaw Massacre being this video nasty, classic, gory horror film, and there's nothing in it. You don't actually see any gore.
Yeah, so I guess that's what it was. This one, like, honestly, I don't think I got Me. I don't think I got one jump scare in this one because it was so predictable.
Holy crap. I mean, that's saying a lot. Look, to me, I've tried to go through these and try and put them in an order that I think I would like them. This was 2 or 3 for me, honestly.
Yeah. It's weird that you didn't get any jump scares because I feel like this is the house that has some more noticeable just jump scares, especially because you have a chainsaw there, because you have the noise factor in there.
Yeah, but you're expecting it. Like in some of the other houses, you may see a boo hole, but you don't necessarily know what's coming out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things, and this kind of goes to, and again, I've said this before, right? So the barriers, right? It doesn't take away from the event enough to not go, but it's not great. And this is a great example of where it's not great because the barriers they have for the scare actors here are these giant ones. These giant, almost looks like a shower curtain, big, right? So you see these from far away, so you know they're coming. And the other thing, which we'll see what happens a month into this event, is those plexiglasses are starting to take a beating,
right? To
where it's hazing up your view of what you're seeing.
Yeah,
and this is a prime example because they are hitting these plexiglasses to try to get you a scare, which is scuffing them up.
Yeah, and
it's a little difficult to see. And there's another house which, when we get to it, where by the 4th night that we've done it, I could barely see the person in there.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that are not great about the barriers is if they get touched a lot, you're gonna have smudges, you're gonna have scuffs, and you're gonna start having a hard time seeing stuff. Yeah. I don't know if that was your experience too, Michelle.
I didn't see that a lot, but I could see where it will
definitely
become an issue. However, they're not like it's more like a plexiglass, like shower curtain type. It's not really a plexiglass.
It's like soft. It's softish.
It's malleable. So it's easily replaced, I would think. I hope that they're going to change them out.
I hope so. Because
it's definitely easier and cheaper to replace this than it would be like actual
plexiglass.
Plexiglass.
It won't last a season. I'll tell you that much.
No.
But one cool fact about this house is when you enter in the front, the 2 gas pumps are original gas pumps from the Jaws ride.
Yep. I did hear that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Let's move it on. Next one up. Another one back that is coming back from last year, and that is Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. Let's go to Michelle first, because Michelle, obviously you didn't see this last year.
Right. And I didn't have high expectations for this one. I actually really liked it, surprisingly. I liked the entrance. Walking into a storybook was very cool. The way that they, it felt almost like going into like a Disney, like Winnie the Pooh ride or whatever, where they're telling you like the story and you can, You hear somebody like reading the book.
It does have heavy Winnie the Pooh vibes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like you get that in the beginning. It feels all very innocent, and the smells even smell like a baby's nursery. Like, I don't know. It smelled very happy and childish, and then it turns very sinister.
You better smell cloves in that house.
Yeah.
By the end, it smelled like a nasty, bloody dentist's office. It was gross.
Cloves. They have to have the smell of cloves in there. That's the dentist smell. It
was awful. The fairies were god awful looking. They just looked nasty. And this house had the gore that I wanted in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This had the blood and the it was disgustingly fun. I liked it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed this house a lot more this year than I did last year. And I don't know if it's because it's nighttime and it's horror nights, but after going through it a couple times and if you really follow through with the story and look at all the set pieces, and it's hard to get on the first run, even a second run, but if you really pay attention, it does a really nice job of setting up the story.
Yes.
You really do feel like you're in a book, like the pages of a book is opening up.
Yeah.
So that was a really, really cool effect there. Like Michelle said, there is a lot of gore in this one. There's some fantastic, masks that are being done because obviously it's the Tooth Fairy. And basically this kid doesn't want to give up his teeth, and they're like, the fairies are going to come get you. And it's a really nice story. And
it's a really nice story.
It's a nice story to teach children to put the damn tooth under the pillow. But, but yeah, I actually enjoyed it much more than I did last year.
Okay.
It's kind of around the middle for me.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
And it had a decently low wait time. It was one of those that you could, and it's probably because it was there last year, so a lot of people have already done it and aren't interested.
Yeah.
So that was one that I could easily kind of do again without Express.
Okay. Cool. Okay, next up, Halloween Horror Nights icons captured.
Please tell me it was as good as it.
I'm gonna have a hernia talking about this one.
Just breathe, Chris. Just breathe. Breathe.
I don't know which way this is going.
Oh, I do.
This house. This is it. This is an amazing house.
So good.
You have all your icons that you want in there, right? The way it's set up, they're fighting for dominance or supremacy. They each have kind of their own little sections as you're going through it. So you have, your Jack and Chance area, you got the director, you got the usher. This is, by the way, the one that when you walk in, there's like a Jack in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I could barely see him towards like the last night because I don't know if it was fog or something, but the plexiglass, I just knew he was in there, but you couldn't see him.
Chance was hard to see too.
She was very difficult to see.
Not good, is it?
I love their interaction in that room as well because like she's just enthralled by Jack and he's just serenading her. It's amazing. I think this house is one of the best houses to have come out.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is so good. This is the house I think I did the most. I think I did it like 7 times at this point.
Jesus.
Yeah. And what's
It's
amazing.
so good though.
What I love about this house, right, is you get some really, really cool kind of scenes. It's like one of my favorites that every time I walk through, I'm just looking forward to it, is when you're going into the director's section and you have the director there kind of filming you. And then if you look up, you see the usher is hung up and the director's filming him just dying, which is great. And then you go into the usher area, you smell popcorn. It's
nice.
It's just amazing. And then
so good. But I don't know if it would be as good for people that don't know any of the history of the event.
No, of course it won't.
Because it wasn't really scary. There weren't.
Excellent point. Yeah,
there weren't a lot of jump scares or anything. So I don't think it's your run of the mill haunted house. But for people that know who these people were, it was like being at a concert of your favorite people.
Yeah,
because every time you turn the corner and you see someone else, you're like, oh my God, I love you.
It's literally the greatest hits of Horror Nights. And if for your average Horror Nights goer, I don't think this would be ranked high on their list at all.
Probably
actually.
not.
Watching the walkthroughs of it, going through the usher section and just hearing, let's all go to the lobby,
Mhm.
just instantly took me back to 25.
His section was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
And like the ending, the finale, right?
Yes.
This last room, which changes every time, right?
Mhm.
There's one icon that'll win every time. It can change.
Mm-hmm.
You see all the different icons in like these cages next to you. They're not cages, but they're behind plexiglass. But they're even like on a second level as well. So they're all there kind of like trapped. And then at the end, it's just this long corridor. And you have this throne where the icon that won is sitting there kind
So
of doing
good.
their thing. And the first time that we went through this, and again, Jack fanatic here. First time we went through this, Jack won.
Awesome.
And it was so amazing. I have it on video too, which I don't know if I sent you this video, this section.
No, I don't think
where for some reason everything cleared out in front of me. So I'm literally walking down an aisle and Jack is just looking right at me, maniacal and just so excited. And I'm
Awesome.
like inside, I am melting and I'm like, my God, yes, Jack won. Like here we are, Jack won this. Screw you icons, like you're it. And he just puts on this like little show with smoke and he's just basking in glory. And it was the first time I went through that house and it was so good. Oh,
It
God,
was so good. And I went through it 3 times and had 3 different experiences with the end. The first one though was my favorite because it was the usher. And
Nice.
it was awesome because for some reason we got stopped like right there. So right before going to the end, there's a section where there's Jack kind of up on a stage. And of course we're walking through like cheering him on like, oh my God, Jack, we love you. And we get to the end and there's the usher and he's telling us all to be quiet. You know, he puts his finger up. And he makes all of us, and we're stopped there, right? We can't move. And he makes all of us put our fingers on our mouths and he sits back down really slowly.
Nice.
And he's just very quietly basking in his glory.
Yeah.
And I hear a crowd of people behind me who see Jack again and they start cheering. And so I turn around and start cheering again, like, woo! And he gets up out of his chair and leans down as close as he can get to me and puts his finger back up on his mouth, like, be quiet. And I was like, oh, I put my finger back up so fast.
But being
was
able
cool.
to get that one-on-one interaction in a house
Yeah.
is very rare.
Yeah, it was
Very.
super cool. So he was the first experience and it was awesome because we got stopped there. The second one was the director and then the last one was Jack for us.
Awesome.
So it's just so cool that you can go through it multiple times like that and you don't know how it's going to
Yeah.
end.
Yeah,
That's a
well,
good idea.
We so we did Jack, director, usher, and Chance. We're missing Storyteller, Lady Luck,
Chance.
and the
you
Caretaker.
see, and that's the thing. It gives you the opportunity to collect them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's the Storyteller. There's Fear. He's in there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lady Luck.
He said Lady Luck.
Did
yeah.
he? I don't know. I'm not fucking listening, obviously.
Yeah. It's a great house. It's a great, great, great house.
Also,
for sure.
the Storytellers Room is really cool. And I won't give too much away in that room. The illusions they do on one side, and there's a kind of a scare right behind you. So you got to make sure to turn around and look at it.
Yeah.
Because you'll be looking to your right the whole time because there's something happening against the wall.
Okay.
But yeah, hers is awesome. It's such a good house.
It really is.
Would be
Loved
in
it.
my top 3, but not my number 1, which might surprise people because everyone. I know this was the one I talked about a lot when I knew this was happening this year.
This was top 3 for me too, for sure.
Moving on, we're going to jump into another Halloween Horror Nights history house, and that is Welcome to Scary Horror in the Heartland.
I'll start off with this one. It fell short for me. I only went through it once, of course, because it fell so short for me. I need to give it another chance because I've heard from people that it's good. I did not have that experience at all. Part of it, I think, is because this is very full of very old HHN history that I am not familiar with. So a lot of it didn't come across to me as understanding the storyline. And I think that I just had a bad run through, honestly, with maybe a cast change or something. I'm not sure, but I didn't quite get it.
Okay.
To be honest with you. And not knowing the history did affect me, whereas other people said that it didn't. But for me, I didn't get it. It wasn't a house that I could walk through and still enjoy without knowing the storyline. So again, I need to give it another shot though.
See, I think this house is one that you don't have to know, and it would still be like on your average Horror Nights, attendee, they'd like the house because there's some decent scares in here, right?
Yeah, so maybe I just had a bad run through.
And that happens.
Yeah, so this one, it happens. Oh, it happened multiple times because I kept on moving houses constantly this entire weekend.
Well, I don't even mean like this year. Obviously, we've talked about this year being a weird year because obviously COVID's affecting it a little bit. I mean, just at Horror Nights in general, you can do a house one night and have a bad run and then do it the next. I always go back to Nightingale's Blood Pit. Tracy, the first time we did that was like, Second time we did it, we come out going, holy crap, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
American Werewolf for me. Never had a scare.
Yeah, me either.
In any of the runs.
So I mean, this one is like Michelle said. There's a lot of throwbacks to a lot of different things in Horror Nights, which I've been going for a long time. But there's a lot of things that I would see and recognize, but not know fully about.
Yeah.
So the more I kind of research on my end and hear about this is that, it makes the house much cooler. But it's definitely it's a solid house. I definitely want to do a little bit more research and then go through the house again to kind of see everything that's there. And I think you'll get a deeper appreciation. But this is one, like I said, your average guest can go through and still enjoy it just because if they get scared easily, it'll be a nice house to scare them a bit.
Kenneth is super knowledgeable about HHN history. So maybe Rush of Fear will do an episode all about this house.
That is a really good idea, actually. Like to go through beat by beat. Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, so I think that I'll hit Kenneth up for that.
Yeah, that is a fantastic idea.
Make my experience a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, why not use him to enhance your experience, but also put decent content out there? That's a really good idea.
Well, thank you. Thank
These things only get better once you learn more history about
absolutely.
it. Because like I said, the first weekend I went, there was things I didn't know that I had to learn. And when I went back the second weekend, it made them even better. And now I have even more stuff I need to learn. So I think that would be a good episode.
Cool. Done.
Yeah. Okay. The Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin is next on the list.
It's number 1 on my list, by the way.
Just terrible.
You're lying.
How can you tell? Chris's nose is about 3 months long.
3 months?
I am hearing everybody say this is their house of the year already, and it's not even close.
This house was not high on my list the first time I went through it. Went through it again, and me and Alexa came out, and she goes, "That's my number 1." Yep. And I'm like, "Damn, that was really good this time around."
Yeah.
There is a lot going on in this house. There's a lot more that I didn't even realize until, again, I've been hearing, reading stuff, listening to podcasts, and picking up on things that I saw but didn't put together 2 and 2. That this house has. Like, this house is a very well themed house, right? Your entrance, the facade in the front is
gorgeous.
Just
You
fantastic.
got to do it during night. I did it at night the first time, and then the second time I did it during the day as my first house was not the same experience at all during the day.
No. Where is this one?
This is in the tent. This is a tent one in Men in Black area, right? Men in
Black, yeah.
So what was there for 2019?
God, I don't remember.
Wasn't
if you're back next to the Men in Black bathrooms, it's the one on the left.
So it's House of 1,000 Corpses then?
Yes.
Bloody hell, I remembered so much.
No.
No, not House of 1,000 Corpses.
House of 1,000 Corpses was an actual...
No, that's where Scary is. Scary
wasn't
in the Heartland.
2019, wasn't it the one underwater alien?
No, Depths of Fear. It was where Depths of Fear was then.
Depths of Fear, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so good. You have to do it at night because that entrance all lit up is beautiful.
Yeah,
it reminds me of the scale. What is it?
Yeah,
Trick or Treat Scare Zone.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just beautiful. It was so gorgeous. And then like the storyline going through it, everything gets it just progressively gets scarier and scarier. And then the part where you're like walking through the actual like pumpkin guts. Oh, so cool.
There's also this amazing kind of setup illusion that's happening there towards the beginning when you're crossing over a bridge. There's a river under you. done so
Okay.
well.
Oh yeah, you feel like you're straight up going to fall in water.
That sounds cool.
It is very cool, and it very reminiscent of an older house where they did something similar to this, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but that illusion right there, like I had to go back. Every time I go, I just kind of look around and see, like if you don't actually stare at it really hard, your mind will just go, yeah, there's a river right under me, you know?
Mhm.
Okay.
And
Very cool.
lighting is fantastic towards the end, especially. It has a
Mhm.
similar kind of tree effect with the rope lights, but kind of going through when you're getting to the final ending of that house, which,
Yep.
you know, you get to meet our pumpkin lord.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah, and that's why another reason why it's better to do it at night, not just for that beginning with seeing the pumpkins all lit up, but also the way your eyes adjust to it in the daylight. My eyes didn't completely adjust to the darkness, so I didn't get to see as much of the house
I think
as I did at nighttime.
I think sometimes that's a better thing. I remember doing Insidious during the day and not being able to see a goddamn thing, and it just made it so much better. Not that you
No,
couldn't
like,
see
I
anything, it was
missed
just like, oh, it was
things, like-
awesome.
The second time I walked through it, I was like, God, I didn't even realize I was walking through the pumpkin guts this time because I couldn't really see the walls around me. When I walked through it at night, though, I saw everything so vividly and it was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Right, moving on.
I'm not going to tell you where this is on my list.
Okay, well,
because
of
that's
course.
going to be
I
on
know.
Rush of Fear
Yeah.
soon.
We know.
But
Number
so
one.
damn
You've
good.
given it all away
It's number
already.
10 on my list.
Whatever. Moving on to another one that like having watched all these now, I think if I was actually ranking them, having gone through them, it would be so tough. This is another one that would definitely be top 5 at least, and that is Puppet Theatre Captive Audience.
Dude, you have no idea. Top 5? No, this would probably be top 2.
Okay,
Really?
that's
Yeah.
good to
Oh,
hear.
God, yeah.
'Cause yes, like when we saw that YouTube video last year, I was like, oh my god, that looks amazing.
Uh-huh.
It was so good. They used some very unique scare tactics in it. It was a very claustrophobic house in parts. It was just amazing.
See, this is on the bottom of my list. Like,
What?
Are
bottom
you
5.
freaking kidding
Oh
me?
my
Yeah,
God,
it just didn't do it
Chris.
for me. I'll be
You
honest
need to
with
do
you.
it again. You must have had a bad run
You
through.
can go off.
Probably.
To quote Tracy,
Um,
you can go off people, you know.
There were a couple good. There's some really interesting scares in this one that they do. One in particular I loved with the mirror.
Yes, the mirror.
The mirror
Oh my
was
god.
phenomenal. Like that's great. It's a phenomenal scare, and I never got it. I only saw it from far away. So again, maybe I just had bad runs in this house, but I don't know. It just didn't do a lot for me. I love the story behind it. I love the actual set pieces and all that, but in reference to where it lands on a list, I think there were a lot of other houses that outdid it. And again, you can be in the bottom of this list this year and still be a great house. So, but yeah, this one I got to go through it a couple more times and see if I get like a good run through it.
Oh man, sorry. You missed it because I went through it 3 times, I think, and every single time it was amazing. The scares put me and my friends on the floor almost in places.
I mean, in fairness, we're
Um,
talking 2 entirely different people when it comes to walking through houses at this point.
Yeah,
but
I'm not
okay.
looking for scares. I'm looking for just the house.
Well, no, I mean, I kept my eyes open, but I had a whole group of I don't know, 6 people with me, and they all of varying bravenesses, and the scares were just so unique. It really like got even the bravest of us.
There is unique scares in there, and I do love the Shakespeare. He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's just a very it's a very tight house, and the puppeteers when they would like sling headless people out into your walkway, and
Okay.
it was cool. I don't
Okay.
know. I liked it a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was phenomenal, and the sets were just so incredibly elaborate. This is probably the most elaborate set pieces in a house I've ever seen. It was awesome.
Wow.
Loved
Okay,
it.
2 very differing opinions there.
Yeah. Well, same with Scary. Like
But this
Yeah, but
is what I love about Horror Nights, though. It's like just because one person likes it, someone else can have a completely different opinion, and that's why I want to do the people sending in their top 10 again, just to get you get a decent cross reference to see what that official list is. And I remember ragging on Chris for having Depths of Fear so high up his list when me, Tracy, and Darren were like, it was terrible, and it's way down.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It's and my list will probably change by the end of the season as well.
I hope it does, because you've got to get the full experience of this house, Chris. It was.
I want to. No,
so good.
This is one when I was like writing my notes down for everything, because I have like a ranking and I'm taking notes on what I see. I'm just having a hard time connecting with this house, and I'm not quite sure what it is, because like I said, there's some very unique scares in here. Set pieces are great, but there's just some disconnect that I'm not seeing there. But we'll see. I mean, I guess everybody relates to something differently, because like when I was walking back from Horror Nights, there was like a group of people next to me, and what's your favorite house? Or I asked them like, what's their favorite? Like, oh, Texas Chainsaw. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, right. And I had, my opinion of this next one that we're about to discuss is more like yours, Chris. So,
interesting.
I'm interested to see what your experience was.
Okay. All right.
Especially considering going into this, we knew how excited for this one you were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yep, Netflix is a Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah. So again, I kind of think my opinion of this one is similar to what Chris just said about Puppet Theater. I expected it to be a lot more than it was. However, everybody that I went to HHN with this opening weekend, they all loved it. So I kind of feel like maybe I just, and again, had a bad run through. But I missed a lot of the stuff. I missed a lot of the details that other people caught. So I need to give it 2 or 3 more runs, because I don't know. I didn't connect with it like I thought I would.
It's funny you say that. I love this house.
That is funny.
And I thought that it was way better than I thought it could be.
So funny.
Yeah, but Alexa, so like difference of opinions. Alexa, this was not one of her favorites. But this house I did multiple times more than some of the other ones. I really enjoyed this house. And I think this one I really connected well with, because I enjoyed the series on Netflix so much. It's like one of my favorite shows when I talk about like horror, watching movies during October or TV series. I really enjoyed the show a lot. And this house perfectly gets the series and puts it inside of a house. And the other thing I really like connect to is they're playing a lot of the music that is inside the show. And you say, well, there's not really identifiable music in there. And there's not that you would say that, like if I asked you to sing something from Hill House right now or hum it or whatever, you probably couldn't.
Nope.
Right.
But if I played it for you, you'll recognize the music and you'll go, oh, yeah.
I wouldn't bet on it, but okay.
Well, the facade walking in to the house.
The facade was great.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even the soundtrack playing out there and like the audio that's going on, it sets the tone immediately. Like it throws you right into the series. And then you're just kind of going through the series. And for me, like one of the biggest things that I loved about that series was the tall man. And we got a lot of tall men in that house.
I expected him to be floating somehow. Like I expected him to be rigged up and floating, and he wasn't. I could see him walking. I was that's walking.
There was one of them that I could have sworn he was floating, but the other ones you literally see this giant figure walking towards you on stilts.
Yeah, he's just walking. I was like,
How many poison teas did you add at that point though, Chris?
Quite a few.
Yeah, see, I had none. So maybe that's the key. I need to get a little drunk first.
I don't know. I just, like I said, I enjoyed it. I think the music and everything brought me back to a place of like, almost like I was watching the show again. And there's certain shows that I've watched that I've always been like, I wish I can forget this show so I can rewatch it and kind of have that experience. Yes. And this is one of those shows for me. Yeah. And going through this house made me feel that way. So yeah, but it's not a very scary house.
We'll see how my opinion changes towards the end of the event, because I have a feeling it will.
I have heard overall that it's not a particularly scary year in general.
No.
And that could be because of the distance, the plexiglass and stuff. They're not getting in your face and in your space like they do sometimes. They do have her like reach out from under the plexiglass sometimes. Yeah. So
again, and it goes back to the just having to take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, right? It was still incredibly enjoyable. And this is by far like the best year overall, house-wise, of my 6 years going.
It's difficult for like me, Chris, and Tracy to comment. I mean, obviously we're not even there, but you know what I mean? To comment on how scary a house is because we don't get scared.
Yeah.
Yes. But what I look for are things. So what I love doing And since it was me and Alexa, especially this last trip, like I love going with people that get scared. We're going in groups. So that's why like when we did 2019,
Yes.
like, oh, seeing Robin fall on the floor almost, it was like, I love seeing people get scared. And that's how I rate, okay, that's a good scare or not a good scare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was harder for us this year because we didn't have a lot of people around us getting scared like that. Very few.
Yeah.
I don't know if that tells you how scary the event was or not, but yeah, but I will say like if you were to, like we're rating these houses based off of what we have right now, take away all the plexiglass masks, you can see faces, they can get right up on you and everything. My God. It's ridiculous. It'd be,
for sure.
Out of hand.
For sure.
But still amazing as is.
Let's move on to another house that briefly got saw last year. Chris, I don't think you managed to see this last year. Michelle, I know you definitely didn't. And that is Beetlejuice, the one that Tracy was...
Still, I'm devastated over. It's the only one for years I've been asking for.
That's a good impression. Oh, shut up, you.
Yeah.
Don't be too disappointed, Tracy.
Really?
Yeah.
I am so glad that I skipped the walkthroughs last year.
Awesome.
Like the video walkthroughs. I didn't spoil it for myself. I came in this year not seeing anything. Love this house.
Really?
Love this house where like I went through it myself one of the times towards the end of the night because there was no wait for it. And Alexa was tired. She's like, just go. I'm like, that's fine. I walked the entire other side of the park to go back into this house.
Wow.
Just because for me, love Beetlejuice, one of my favorite movies ever. Literally can quote half the movie. Yep. This is a walkthrough of the movie.
Yeah.
There's no scares in this. There's no scares in this at all.
And that's fine.
Like, which is fine. Yeah.
That wasn't what I was expecting. This is the comedy house.
Because there's always that house there every year that is there for...
Killer Clowns was one.
But this is the least of those houses as far as scariness goes. Like it's literally like you could have this at Disney.
This was...
Seriously.
Like even the intro walking in, like you have a live Beetlejuice actor up there that interacts with the crowd. And that you have the music playing, then you have like a little tunnel that does kind of mess with your vision.
Oh, yeah.
Love those tunnels. Love those tunnels.
Those tunnels work so well. Like, and if you really just look at the sides, you will fall like to the rails every single time.
Oh no, don't hold on. The trick is to not hold on to the railings and just try and walk through like that.
No, that's what I'm saying. You will fall against the rail because it's so difficult. And they just executed that house perfectly. There is nothing in that house I would change. They hit every single scene of every important part of that movie, like to the T. And if you're lucky enough to get like all the, I don't want to call them jump scares, but the Beetlejuices that come out, it's so well done. And it's funny because this is a house that's a lot of Beetlejuice, but every iteration of Beetlejuice you see is different. So it's different points of the movie, different costumes, so it doesn't get stale.
Yes.
Like another house would with the same actor over and over, like a Jason, a Freddy, anything like that.
See, well, I need to give this one another chance too, because literally we were in between cast changes.
That makes a massive difference.
For sure, because there were, there were so many obvious places where there were supposed to be actors and there were none. So we missed like everything on this one walking through it. And I was so underwhelmed by it that I thought this was going to be the one that I took Krista through for sure because it was least scary and it wasn't. So she went through Wicked Growth first and then Puppet Theater.
Wow.
And after braving those and loving it, I was like, do you want to go wait in line for Beetlejuice? It's not scary. And she's like, no. Wow. Why would I wait in line for it if it's not scary? I was like, oh, that's my girl.
Yeah.
I could definitely understand
your kid
that.
up wrong there, but okay.
Yeah, that one time I went through at the end by myself was the end of the night, and 70% of the cast was missing. Like that Beetlejuice in the front wasn't even there.
Wow.
I was so bummed leaving that house because I already went through it like 2 other times. So I was just going in there to end my night on like a
high
upbeat Beetlejuice, like fun kind of thing. Cause I just love everything about that movie. And everybody was missing. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah. And that's exactly what my run through was. There was like hardly anybody in there. So hit or miss, but if you love Beetlejuice, it's good.
And that's the thing, it's showcasing what Universal do and put you in the middle of your favorite movie. It was never going to be a scary house, was it?
Yeah,
this is the Ghostbusters house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that wasn't scary.
This is the one I've been waiting for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they hit it. Because I mean, if you were expecting a Beetlejuice house to be scary, then you don't know Horror Nights,
Exactly.
right?
Well, you
Like,
don't know
that's-
Beetlejuice either.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's not Beetlejuice was never meant to be scary. And they hit this house. I think they hit it out the park. Like it's a perfect house. With that being said, it's not my favorite house
Right.
because there are so many other things there, but it's a perfect house in my opinion.
Cool.
And finally, we have Case Files Unleashed, Legendary Truth.
Okay. This one I need like 20 run-throughs of because there's a lot going on in this house as far as like the storyline and all of the very deep underlying HHN history and enigmas and things surrounding some of the past of it. Like it's a very deep house. But if you put all that aside and just walk through it, it's a very cool house. Like walking through that whole like I don't even know what decade it was, what 30s, 40s vibe. And it feels like you're in black and white, but it's not. But you feel like you should be like in a black and white movie walking through it. Very, very cool idea. It's not, I didn't find it scary, but it was just a very cool idea. The part that sticks out to me the most is the Kitty Cat Club. And I just found out that the singer on stage is really singing. Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
was not
Yeah.
yeah. She's
Oh.
that's the first time in HHN history that they've had a live singer
Wow.
in a house. So that's a very cool little tidbit. Now that I know that, I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive to be able to do that all night long, you know, with just a few different actors interchanging. But it was a very elaborate house that deserves a lot of walkthroughs and a lot of attention to detail when walking through.
I would 100% agree with you. I think before you do this house, do yourself a favor and just Google search a little bit about Case Files Unearthed so you can understand what's going on in here. There is a lot going on in here.
Yes.
And I walked to this house and I fell in love immediately. And it just like flew to the top of my list. I'm having issues with this and another house to see which one I prefer.
Okay.
But this house has so many things going on. You're basically you're Tim Foyle, I think is his name. You're trying to figure out, this investigator that he was, dealing with a lot of mysterious, beings and things like that. And you're trying to figure out something that's going on that's linked between all these books. But as you're going through the house, you're going through each of these books.
Right.
So all these books are there sat on a table right when you enter, and you're going through this whole thing. So you get to go through these different time periods, which is super cool. You finally end up at the end where, he figured something out, but didn't work out well for him. And the ending is also like, it's not as extravagant as Wicked Growth, but I love the last room that you're in just because there's a really nice effect going on in there. And for me, it was just a highly enjoyable house. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's very detailed and complex. It's very deep.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool. And when you find out like the detective that you are, Boris, right?
Boris Schuster.
Boris Schuster, yeah.
Schuster, yeah. His office is right outside in the streets of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they leave the light on.
The Kitty Cat
Club is right across the street from it. His is the only light left on
Yes.
in the entire street, which is just adds to the theming.
So
like
cool.
it's so cool. I think all that is really cool. You got to be more of like a geek to like really appreciate all that stuff. Your average goer will just be like, oh, there was some scares here and there.
Right.
There's not any in this house. There's not really any crazy elaborate scares that I can think of.
There's some gore though.
There's gore.
Yeah. Especially in the Kitty Cat Club. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I did like that. But this is a really, really fun house to go through. And you definitely, I think Michelle hit it. You got to go through it a few times. And I would recommend Googling a little bit about the story. Just if you want to add to your experience, it'll really help out.
Yep.
Welcome to number
Great year.
10 on my list.
This one really intrigued me, but I love that sort of film noir detective stuff anyway.
Bottom of my
Oh,
list.
full
You
of
would
that.
be wrongly. It would
No, I
not
wouldn't. I'd
end
be
up
right.
as 10.
I don't know. I disagree. I haven't
I
seen
know you.
anything
It
in
would
it that
not.
makes me think that it looked anywhere near interesting.
No, it would be higher.
I don't know. We're gonna have issues, Lee. You have Texas Chainsaw on the top, this on the bottom.
Yeah.
I
You're
mean,
never going to get a true experience out, a true list out of me anyway, because I'm not there.
That's true.
Anyway.
True.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Speaking of lists, so yes, this is for you, the listener. So, yeah, if you want to join in and send in your house rankings for this year from 1 to 10, get that done as soon as you can. And we want your best to worst houses.
Yeah, so
obviously.
1 being best, 10 being worst.
Yep. And send that to podcast@uuopodcast.com. Excited to see what your lists are.
Yes, I will put them all together, and after the event, we will have that official ranking. But for now, that is going to wrap up a very long episode talking about something I am very bitter over not getting to experience this year. Wasn't as overall positive as I expected it to be honest. But yeah, I think too many outside factors still having an impact on it overall. It will be interesting to see if those change as the event goes on, which we know it does,
Right.
for definite. It's definitely going to be interesting this year more than any other year to keep an eye on that for sure. But for now, we're going to finish the show and we'll wrap it up with another listener-submitted Universal Is, and this one comes from Thomas Bernal. Of course, if you want to be involved, all you've got to do is let us know what you think Universal is in 3 words or less and get them to us however you want to. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, whatever it might be. We'll share them on the show. But for this week, Thomas says Universal is my dream job. See you all next week.
Guess that wraps things up for another unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. You guys did all right. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest, keyword UUO Podcast. Listen and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or anywhere podcasts are found. You can find our blog at UUOpodcast.com. Send us your spews, which Lou gets your poo recordings, questions, or comments to podcast@UUOpodcast.com. Check out our friends, the Theme Park Duo, and our awesome sponsors, Mouse and Muggle Travel Company. So, until next time, don't give up your day job. Say cheese. See you later.